Daniel Sports Central, we go for a college football bowl preview and prediction on the 2022 Rose Bowl matchup between the Utah Utes and the Ohio State Buckeyes. One of the most intriguing matchups of this bowl season. You got Utah on one side. They are Pac-12 champions. They beat Oregon in the Pac-12 title game, and they are on fire heading into this matchup. They're facing off against Ohio State, one of the most talented and dominant teams in the Big Ten. So it's going to make for a very interesting matchup. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this game here today, starting out with your team trends. Utah beat Oregon in the Pac-12 title 38-10, and a very similar score to the regular season game that we saw back in late November between Utah and Oregon. And yeah, so Utah, they have dominated Oregon twice in their past 3 games, and of course in the Pac-12 title game, that's really where it mattered, and the Utes are in the Rose Bowl because of it. They're 10-3 heading into this matchup, and this team has really found their stride. I mean, once November hit, I mean, this football team really has been dominant, and I mean, they took 3 losses between September and October, but they haven't lost since October 23rd when they lost to Oregon State on the road. So yeah, Utah, they're on fire right now. They're playing excellent football, and they're facing off against Ohio State. They lost to Michigan 27-42 there in the last game of the regular season. So obviously brutal loss there for the Buckeyes, losing to Michigan. And I mean, this is the Wolverines' year. They're in the college football playoff and just won the Big Ten as well. But for Ohio State, they're 10-2. Very talented football team. I mean, offensively, they're putting up 45 points a game. So, I mean, on offense, this is a very talented football team. And defensively as well, they've really improved over the course of the season. It'll be on Saturday, January 1st, Pasadena, California. And your kickoff time is 5 p.m. Eastern. That would be 2 p.m. Pacific time. Spread's going Ohio State here by 6.5 points. So the Buckeyes are favored by a decent amount in this matchup. FPI's going on Ohio State's side somewhat heavily, 67.7% there. Over under 65.5, so a moderate to a higher scoring game is expected, which totally makes sense. I mean, both teams offensively are very high powered. You've got tons of talent on both offenses here, and defensively both teams are good as well, but it's the offense where both these teams really shine. Series history, Ohio State leads at 1-0, but that game was way back in 1986, so it has been quite a while since we last saw Ohio State play Utah. Here's your stat comparison for this game. Utah, 35 points per game. I mean, you can really see where, I mean, these offenses are outstanding. Ohio State, 45 points per game on the season, and I mean, Utah, 35 points per game is still a pretty impressive stat there. Points allowed per game, both teams have 20. Then for passers a game for Utah, 212. Rush yards a game, 216 for yards allowed for Utah. 195 passing, 122 for rushing. As for the Buckeyes, you got 364 passers a game, 186 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 246 passing, 119 for rushing. So for Utah here, they got a pretty balanced offense for the most part between rushing and passing. Tavion Thomas is the lead back for this football team. He has had a great season for this team, over 1,000 yards of offense, over 1,000 yards of rushing, and 20 touchdowns on the season. So yeah, Tavion Thomas, definitely a very major player in this matchup, and he's a very talented player for this offense. And for Ohio State, I mean, they've got so much. It's incredible how much talent is on this Buckeye offense. You got 3 big-time receivers there. You got Jackson Smith, Njigba. You also got Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, plus the quarterback, C.J. Stroud, who's only gotten better over the course of the season. I mean, C.J. Stroud, he started out the year, he was okay, but, I mean, he has improved drastically over the course of the year. And, of course, other than that Michigan loss, I mean, he's been outstanding and won a lot of big-time football games over the course of the season. And, I mean, if you look at Ohio State, mainly a passing offense, and rightfully so, 364 pass yards a game. I mean, with the big 3 that Ohio State has there with the receivers, I mean, rightfully so. They have had an outstanding season offensively. And for rush yards a game, 186. So even in the rushing game, this Ohio State team has been extremely productive. I mean, you got Travion Henderson on the Ohio State side, the lead back, over 1,100 yards, 15 touchdowns as well. So Ohio State offensively, Utah is going to have their hands full. It's going to be a tough game for them. And Ohio State has been tough on every single team that they've played. I mean, most teams, like Michigan State, for example, allowed 56 points to Ohio State just because of how talented of this offense that Ohio State really has. So for Utah, I mean, this is unlike any team that they have ever played this entire season with Ohio State. I mean, with the Buckeyes, tremendous amount of talent. I mean, Ohio State's on a different level than any team that Utah has played all season long. Some recent matchups: Utah beat Oregon, number 10 team in the nation in the Pac-12 title, 38-10. Beat Colorado 20-13. Beat Oregon, who is number 3 in the regular season, 38-7. So yeah, you pretty much own Oregon. I think it's safe to say in this 2021 season. You also beat Arizona 30-29, beat Stanford 52-7. As for Ohio State, lost to Michigan 27-42, but beat Michigan State 56-7. That was an incredibly impressive game. I mean, I was watching that one, and Ohio State was just running all over them. Also beat Purdue 59-31. That was a quality win. Beat Nebraska on the road 26-17. Beat Penn State as well 33-24. So down the stretch, Ohio State, I mean, if you look at them at the beginning of the season, they lost to Oregon in week 2. And everyone, I mean, after that, some people started to sleep on this football team, and they kind of had a sloppy game against Tulsa. But after that, this team really found their stride. And I mean, from October onward, all the way until that Michigan game, this team was on fire. They were extremely dominant, and they were playing lights out football, to say the least. But yeah, for Ohio State, I mean, this is a very dominant football team. And even though they're 10-2 and didn't win the Big Ten, they're still an extremely talented football team. Some key points: Utah 10-3, one of the hottest teams in college football for sure. I mean, Ohio State was one of the hottest teams in college football before they lost to Michigan as well. So that's why it's such an interesting matchup. But Utah, I mean, obviously this is a football team that, I mean, they've won several games in a row, and they've beaten Oregon twice in their past 3 games. So Utah is playing excellent right now. Tavion Thomas, once again, has had a major impact on this offense. And also got Cameron Rising. He's really shown up. He's played very well. 2,200 yards on the season for him, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's got some pretty good stats. And quality wins include Oregon twice, UCLA, and Arizona State. So Utah, they have won some pretty good games. And I mean, this is one of the toughest schedules, I would say, in the Pac-12 that Utah has, having to play Oregon. And yes, they've got a tough schedule. But for Ohio State, offense has been outstanding all season long. Team has been dominant down the stretch. Quality wins include Penn State, Purdue, and Michigan State. Purdue, do not sleep on the Boilermakers. They knocked off Michigan State and Purdue, and Iowa down the stretch. So Purdue's actually a pretty good football team. They're 8-4 to finish out the year. So I mean, Ohio State, they've played some pretty good football teams down the stretch, and they've done fairly well. So that being said, let's get to the prediction here for Utah and Ohio State. Rose Bowl game for 2022. I'm going to go Buckeyes here, 35-31 is my predicted final score. Tough one to predict here. You got 2 outstanding offenses, 2 outstanding football teams. Utah, one of the hottest teams in college football, and Ohio State, one of the most skilled and talented teams in the country. Once again, tough one to predict here. You got so much talent on both sides here between Utah and Ohio State, and this is going to go down as an outstanding Rose Bowl. Going to be a great game here. I think it's going to be close. I mean, Ohio State potentially, I mean, some experts are saying that Ohio State routes Utah in this game. I just don't see that happening. I think Ohio State, it's going to be a close one here, and Buckeyes get the win, 35-31. I'm going to go 55% towards the Buckeyes. So, I mean, I do believe Ohio State wins this game, but, I mean, certainly it could go either way. I mean, Utah, they have played lights out their past few games, and they've beaten, I mean, they know how to play in big games too. Like, look how they played in the Pac-12 title. That was a huge deal for Utah, getting to Las Vegas and playing in the Pac-12 title game, and they played excellent in that game. They handled the pressure perfectly. So, I mean, we know Utah can handle the pressure. It's just a matter of which team is more talented in this situation. And I think Ohio State in the end, they're going to get the win here, 35-31. But it's going to be a great game, very close game. Utah hangs on, but in the end, Ohio State gets the win. Over/under 65.5. I'm going to take the over for this game. So more of a higher scoring game I do expect to see here with, I mean, 2 extremely high-powered offenses, and should make for a good one. But I do expect Utah to cover. The spread is currently 6.5 points towards the Buckeyes, but I do expect Utah to cover that spread as of right now. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys all watching. As always, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys later.